to dig around in the title of our panel session by way of an example before I hand over to my esteemed colleagues over here, particularly around the word interdependence in that title. In a prior life, I worked in New York as a general manager cum executive producer on commercial productions, mainly on Broadway, but some off-Broadway. And while that commercial market is often derided for its priority of commerce over art, it should also be noted that the same market has historically featured a consistent presence of artists whose work investigates new forms. A very few examples of this exploration of form over the years are Michael Bennett and the dancers whose lives became a chorus line, writer Susan Laurie Parks, downtown cabaret sensation Justin Bond, and a long tradition of works moved from British companies like the National, the Donmar and the Royal Court. This route into the mainstream is reasonably often accelerated by commercial presented producers providing so-called enhancement funds to the not-for-profit companies. These arrangements are project-based or ongoing in the case of the British companies I mentioned, and the deal is that money is paid by the presenter to the producer, to the artist in return for sort of a first look opportunity for a longer life of the production via a commercial run. If there's indeed a future life, there's an ongoing royalty that goes back to the original company, ongoing employment for the original artists, and certain creative controls so that the originating artist's work maintains its relevance and the qualities that so appealed in the first place. The massive US market is a very different paradigm to our own, and I don't want to stay there long. But the point I would like to make is that often the new work in that giant washing machine is actually developed by artists and not-for-profit companies whose missions support investigation. These artists then occasionally have a financial legacy from their work independent from their ongoing activities. But there's a but. In practice, this interdependence or ecology should actually be characterised as codependence, which leads to a reduction in opportunity of and for artists on the commercial side and on the not-for-profit side. Financially strapped companies and artists eager for funds to enable realisation of full dreams rather than an approximation of them begin to second-guess what might move into the mainstream. On the other side of the equation, producer-presenters look for work off the shelf instead of commissioning it. Originality and investment in artists and forms decreases on both sides, and derivative projects dominate the landscape. So while we're talking today, I'd like us to ask ourselves how we distinguish between interdependence and codependence. Where is mutual artistic investigation enhanced by a collaboration, and is there a point where one party needs the other's need in order itself to exist or be valid? How do the differences in power, size, motivation, risk aversion, and financial stability affect the individual and organisational relationships, work, and practice? And so do our panel.